Shalom, this is Rabbi Dov Linzer of Yeshivat Chovei Torah Rabbinical School, and I'd like to share with you a thought on this upcoming Chag of Shmini Atzeret and Simchat Torah. And I'd like to talk about the passion of the bride and the groom. Because on Simchat Torah, we have a custom that the person we call up, the man we call up, to complete the Torah, to receive the last aliyah, is called up with a special piyut, with a special poem, and is referred to as the chatan Torah, the groom of the Torah, which evokes the idea of being married to the Torah. And actually, in some circles, in women's tefillah groups and in partnership minyanim, they do this also for the woman. They call her up as the kalat Torah, the bride of the Torah. And this image is a very powerful one. It says that we are married to the Torah. The Torah is our life. It's the Torah that we are building our life around, that is the foundation of our family, of our home. We know the Torah intimately. We've been living with the Torah. We know it. We have a deep, deep connection to the Torah. We have a love for the Torah. That is what it means to be a husband or wife to the Torah. But actually, this is a bit of a misnomer, because we don't refer to the person as the chatan Torah, as the husband of Torah or the wife of Torah. We refer to them as the bride of Torah or of the groom of the Torah. And being a bride and a groom is not yet being married. It's that stage of about to be married, or technically married, but not yet beginning to live together. It's a state that the rabbis refer to as erusin, as betrothal. And there's something very powerful and very different about this state, because at this stage of the relationship, there's a whole sense of passion. There's a sense of discovery of the unknown, of a rush of emotions, of a desire to get to know the other person better. There's the erotic. That there's a real excitement and stimulation. That is the state of chatan and kala. And what the Torah is telling us, or what this practice, this custom is telling us, is that has to be part of our relationship to the Torah. Not just something that, oh yes, we know this, we've been living together with a life of Torah and mitzvot, but no, at the moment that we finish the Torah, that it represents somebody who has mastered the Torah, has been through the whole thing, we're saying that person is actually about to begin to be a chatan Torah. That person is about to begin to be a kalat Torah, to actually bring to this relationship that sense of excitement, of newness, of just being engaged, of being betrothed, but not yet fully knowing. That when we're about to read Bereshit, we'll be astounded by the creation of the world. When God calls on Abraham, we'll be with Abraham on his journey. We are going to be on the trip. We're going to be on the journey of Bnei Israel to Egypt and then out of Egypt. We are going to find ourselves fascinated, learn new things. We are here to discover. That is our relationship after we finish the Torah. Also the relationship of chatan and kala. The rabbis say that we should read the verse in this week's parsha, that the Torah is morasha kilat Yaakov, an inheritance to Yaakov, not as morasha, an inheritance, but ma'orasa, as betrothal, that this state is a critical state of how we relate to the Torah. But as with husband and wife, this cannot be our only relationship, because you take that amazing passion and excitement and you go ahead and you move it and you transition it to a deep, stable love, to one that really becomes enduring and not just a rush of excitement. You replace the passion of the fire of the passion with the warmth of the hearth. That's really the move from chatan and kala to husband and wife. Of course, we want both. We want that stable, deep, abiding love, and we also want to be in love. We want to have that passion. We want to have that excitement. And how do we get both? The Torah is supposed to be both. The rabbis say that when somebody says to you, asks you a question, you should know the Torah so intimately that you can give the person an answer immediately. And then they also say that every time you learn the Torah, it should be something new. This is a message of how we relate to the Torah and how we should think about our relationship, husband and wife, that we have that depth, but let's bring to it that sense of discovery, that's something new. How are we going to do that? Well, when we begin to read the Torah again, let's start and find something new to bring to it. Let's bring a new commentary. Let's learn something we've never learned before, something that will give us a sense of discovery. And in our relationship, as we've been living with one another for so long, it's even more of a challenge of that sense of being too familiar, too much around the other person. Let's do something new, something different. Let's take a cooking class together. Let's go ahead and go hiking together or biking together. Let's not just watch a new show on Netflix. Let's actually do something that will give us a sense of excitement, of discovery, that will allow us to be excited with what we're doing and excited with one another. And maybe actually, let's start this year and decide to learn Torah with one another, something new that we haven't learned, something that will allow us to be a chatan and a kala in our relationship to the Torah and our relationship to one another. Chag Sameach and Shabbat Shalom.